"We really should start a GoFundMe for your mother," my daughter-in-law whispered to my son during Thanksgiving dinner, loud enough for me to hear.
It's embarrassing how she shops at Walmart and clips coupons. People are starting to talk. What she didn't know was that my embarrassing Walmart habits had helped me accumulate over $1 million in the stock market, and my coupon collection was sitting next to bank statements showing seven-figure account balances. I'd been playing the role of the struggling grandmother for 2 years, watching them treat me like a burden while I secretly funded their lifestyle. The performance was about to end. The whole thing had started innocently enough. After my husband Roberto died 3 years ago, I'd found myself alone in our small apartment in Little Havana, drowning in grief and medical bills. The life insurance had covered Roberto's funeral and most of the debt, but at 69, I was facing the reality of living on Social Security alone. That's when I discovered the movie Queenpins on Netflix one rainy afternoon in 2022. Watching Kristen Bell and Kirby Howell-Baptist turn coupon fraud into a $1 million operation had been entertaining, but it had also sparked something in my analytical mind. I'd spent 30 years as a bookkeeper for small businesses in Miami, and I understood systems, loopholes, and the art of maximizing every penny. But I wasn't planning fraud. I was planning something completely legal and infinitely more profitable. I'd started small, learning the legitimate art of extreme couponing. I studied manufacturer policies, store promotions, and cashback apps with the same intensity I'd once applied to balancing corporate books. Within weeks, I was getting groceries for pennies on the dollar, sometimes even making money on transactions through strategic combinations of coupons and rebates. The savings were impressive, but the real opportunity came when I realized that stores often overstocked on promotional items, especially when extreme couponers like me bought them out. That's when I'd started my inventory arbitrage business, buying products at deep discounts or for free with coupons, then reselling them online at market price. My one-bedroom apartment had transformed into a mini warehouse. The living room held cases of toothpaste, shampoo, and cleaning supplies. The spare bedroom became a packing center where I prepared shipments for Amazon FBA and eBay. What had started as a way to save on groceries had become a 6-figure business. But the real money came from the stock market. Every dollar I saved on groceries, every profit from reselling couponed products went straight into index funds and dividend stocks. I'd learned about investing from watching YouTube videos and reading library books, approaching it with the same methodical precision I'd applied to everything else in my life. Within 18 months, my small apartment business and aggressive investing had generated over $400,000 in liquid assets. By the time Vanessa made her GoFundMe comment, I was sitting on just over $1 million in total net worth. But here's the thing. I looked exactly like what Vanessa described. I shopped at Walmart because their prices were genuinely better. I clipped coupons because free money was still free money. I drove my 2015 Honda Civic because it was reliable and paid off. I wore clothes from thrift stores because spending $200 on a shirt when I could get the same function for $5 seemed absurd. To the outside world, especially to my son Miguel and his wife Vanessa, I looked like a stereotype. The struggling Hispanic grandmother scraping by on Social Security, too proud to ask for help, but clearly in need of it. Miguel had started leaving money on my kitchen counter during visits, small amounts he thought I wouldn't notice. "For groceries, Mom," he'd say when I tried to return it. Vanessa would bring me care packages of expensive organic foods, explaining that I needed to eat better and shouldn't sacrifice nutrition for savings. The irony was exquisite. They were living paycheck to paycheck in their overpriced Coral Gables townhouse, making payments on leased BMWs they couldn't afford, while lecturing me about financial responsibility. Vanessa worked as a real estate agent in a competitive market, Miguel as a mid-level manager at a tech company. Their combined income was decent, but their expenses were crushing. Meanwhile, I was quietly building wealth faster than both of them combined. The breaking point came during that Thanksgiving dinner in 2023. Vanessa had spent weeks planning an elaborate meal, posting every detail on Instagram to showcase their perfect life. I'd arrived with homemade flan and a bottle of wine I'd gotten free with coupons, wrapped in gift paper from the dollar store. Elena always brings the most interesting contributions, Vanessa had announced to the gathered guests, her tone making it clear that interesting meant embarrassing. The other guests, all successful professionals from their social circle, had smiled politely while exchanging meaningful glances. That's when she'd made the GoFundMe comment. Sitting at their dining table, wearing a dress I'd bought for $3 at Goodwill, I'd calculated that the watch on my wrist, Roberto's old Rolex that I'd never bothered to replace, was worth more than everything Vanessa was wearing combined. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so insulting. But what really bothered me wasn't the condescension. It was the fact that my own son was nodding along, embarrassed by his mother's appearance and lifestyle, never once considering that maybe I had reasons for my choices. That night, I'd made a decision. It was time to stop playing the role they'd cast me in. I'd started with small changes. Instead of protesting when Miguel left money on my counter, I'd thank him graciously and deposit it directly into my investment account. When Vanessa brought expensive groceries, I'd gush about how generous she was, while calculating how much I'd save by not buying those items myself. I'd also started documenting everything. Photos of Miguel's help, screenshots of Vanessa's social media posts about supporting family in need, recordings of conversations where they discussed my financial struggles in front of others. I wasn't planning anything malicious. I was simply building a record of their assumptions. The reveal opportunity came during Miguel's birthday party in January 2024. Vanessa had planned another elaborate celebration, this time at a trendy restaurant in South Beach that charged $200 per person. I'd been invited, but with the clear implication that they'd be covering my meal. "Don't worry about the cost, Elena," Vanessa had said sweetly. "It's important that family is together, regardless of circumstances." I'd accepted graciously, playing my part perfectly. The restaurant was everything I'd expected: overpriced, pretentious, filled with people trying to impress each other with their wealth. Our party of 12 included Miguel's work colleagues, Vanessa's real estate friends, and a few family members who'd bought into the narrative that I was the struggling relative they were kindly supporting. During dinner, the conversation had inevitably turned to money. Someone mentioned a new investment opportunity, others discussed their portfolios, and eventually the focus shifted to retirement planning. "It's so important to start saving early," one of Miguel's colleagues had pontificated. "I feel bad for people who reach retirement age without proper planning." All eyes had turned to me, the cautionary tale sitting right at their table. "Elena's situation is exactly why we need better financial education," Vanessa had added, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Too many seniors end up dependent on family because they never learned to invest." That's when I decided the performance was over. "You're absolutely right about starting early," I'd said, pulling out my phone. "I actually started investing seriously about 2 years ago, after I watched this movie called Queenpins. Have any of you seen it?" A few people nodded, looking confused about where this was going. "It's about women who turn coupon fraud into a business empire." Obviously, I wasn't interested in the fraud part, but it got me thinking about the legitimate opportunities in extreme couponing and resale arbitrage. I'd opened my investment app and turned the screen toward the table. This is my portfolio as of this morning. As you can see, starting from basically nothing 2 years ago, I've managed to accumulate just over $1 million in liquid assets. The silence was immediate and complete. Miguel's fork had frozen halfway to his mouth. Vanessa's face had drained of all color. The rest of the table stared at my phone screen, trying to process what they were seeing. "That can't be real," Vanessa had whispered. I'd swiped to my bank account. "This is my checking account. This is my savings account. And this," I'd opened another app, "is my business account for my resale operation. I've been averaging about $40,000 per month in gross revenue, with roughly 60% profit margins." But you shop at Walmart," Miguel had stammered. "You use coupons. You dress like..." Like someone who understands that wealth isn't about what you spend, it's about what you keep, I'd finished. Every dollar I don't waste on overpriced groceries or designer clothes is a dollar I can invest. Every coupon I use is free money that goes straight into my portfolio. I'd looked around the table at their shocked faces. You know what's really interesting? This dinner costs $200 per person. For our table of 12, that's $2,400. I could get the same nutritional value for about $60 worth of groceries, invest the difference, and earn roughly $240 per year in returns at a conservative 10% growth rate. Vanessa had found her voice. Why didn't you tell us? We've been trying to help you. Help me? I'd laughed softly. Miguel, in the past year, you've left approximately $800 on my kitchen counter. Vanessa, you've spent about $1,200 on groceries you thought I couldn't afford. Meanwhile, I've been generating more wealth in a single month than both of your annual salaries combined. Then why did you let us think? Miguel had started. Because you assumed, I'd said firmly. You saw an elderly Hispanic woman shopping at Walmart and clipping coupons, and you automatically assumed I was poor. You never asked about my finances, never considered that I might have reasons for my choices. You just decided I was an embarrassment who needed your charity.
The table had remained silent as I'd continued. The most insulting part wasn't the condescension. It was the fact that you were embarrassed by me. Your mother, who taught you the value of hard work and smart money management, became someone you pitied instead of someone you respected. I'd stood up, placing enough cash on the table to cover the entire dinner. This meal is on me tonight. Consider it a small token of appreciation for teaching me such a valuable lesson about assumptions. As I'd walked toward the exit, I'd turned back one more time. Oh, and Vanessa, you don't need to start a GoFundMe for me, but you might want to consider starting one for yourselves. From what I can see of your spending habits, you're going to need it. The aftermath had been as dramatic as I'd expected. Miguel had called me the next morning, his voice a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and something that might have been respect. Mom, I don't understand. If you had all this money, why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us think you were struggling? Because, mijo, you never asked. You saw what you wanted to see, and you treated me accordingly. How you treat people when you think they have nothing tells me everything I need to know about your character. But we were trying to help. No, you were trying to feel better about yourselves. There's a difference between helping someone who asks for help and condescending to someone you assume needs it. Miguel had been quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now, you decide who you want to be. The son who's embarrassed by his mother's choices, or the son who respects that his mother might know what she's doing. That conversation had been 6 months ago. Since then, our relationship had slowly improved. Miguel had started asking genuine questions about my investment strategy and business model. He'd begun to understand that my lifestyle choices weren't signs of poverty, but evidence of financial intelligence. Vanessa had taken longer to come around. She'd gone through stages: disbelief, anger, embarrassment, and finally, grudging respect. She'd even asked me to teach her about couponing and investing, though she was still struggling with the concept that wealth didn't require expensive displays. The most satisfying part hadn't been the reveal itself. It had been watching their perspective shift. Miguel had started shopping more carefully, paying attention to prices and deals. Vanessa had begun questioning whether they really needed 2 luxury car payments. They'd both started saving money instead of just earning it. But the real victory was personal. For 2 years, I'd allowed other people's assumptions to dictate how I was treated. I'd let them turn my financial intelligence into a source of shame, my practical choices into evidence of failure. The Queenpins movie had taught me something important. Sometimes the most powerful business model is the one people don't expect. But my real-life experience had taught me something even more valuable. The most powerful personal strategy is refusing to let other people's limitations define your worth. 6 months after the restaurant revelation, my net worth had grown to $1.3 million. My business was thriving, my investments were performing well, and my relationship with my son was stronger than it had been in years. But more importantly, I was no longer playing a role. I was being myself. A woman who understood that true wealth came from making smart choices, not expensive ones. The irony of the whole situation wasn't lost on me. In trying to help their poor mother, Miguel and Vanessa had revealed more about themselves than they'd ever learned about me. They'd shown that their care was conditional on their assumptions, that their respect was tied to their perceptions of my status. Meanwhile, the woman they'd pitied had been quietly building the kind of financial security they could only dream of, one coupon and one investment at a time. The lesson I'd learned was simple but profound. Never let anyone else's limited imagination limit your reality. Whether it's a movie about coupon queens or a family dinner full of assumptions, inspiration and opportunity can come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes the best revenge against people who underestimate you isn't proving them wrong, it's succeeding so completely that their opinions become irrelevant. These days, I still shop at Walmart. I still clip coupons. I still drive my Honda Civic and wear thrift store clothes. But now I do it from a position of strength, not struggle. Every penny I save is a choice, not a necessity. Every smart financial decision is evidence of wisdom, not desperation. And when Vanessa introduces me to her friends now, the tone is completely different. Instead of our charity case, I'm Miguel's mother, the successful entrepreneur. Instead of pity, there's curiosity about my business model and investment strategy. The transformation didn't happen overnight, and it required me to finally stop caring more about their comfort than my own dignity. But watching them realize that the woman they'd condescended to was actually more financially successful than they were, that made every moment of playing poor worth it. After all, the best coupons in life aren't the ones that save you money. They're the ones that save you from people who don't deserve your authenticity. And that lesson? That one was absolutely free.